touch a truck today? Oh,
How are you?
nice.
Good, how are you?
Okay, good.
I'll see you guys.
David Charney here. I tapped into the main man here. From his days at Urbana when he was doing all his national award-winning work there, taking the kids. I'm not gonna read it straight off the old.
Oh, you don't.
Oh, yeah, we gotta get all the credentials in there. Parkland states it, we gotta have it. I won't go into all the degrees and stuff. He's been an automotive instructor since 2012, teaching at Urbana High School in Parkland. He joined the Ford Asset Program in 2021 and is currently the program director and instructor. He has worked in the automotive industry as a technician since 2000. After completing his technician training at Madison Area Technical College in Madison, Wisconsin, while attending MATC, David became his first auto mechanic working for Sears. He quickly transitioned into a full-time technician position at Saturn of Madison, where he spent the next 7 years. Over the next 10 years, David worked for 2 General Motors dealerships, concluding with Sullivan Park Hill in Champaign. He taught automotive technology at Urbana High School while teaching part-time in Parkland's early college career academy automotive program before coming full-time with the Ford Asset Program. He's been heavily involved with Parkland's Hot Rodders of Tomorrow engine competition, which has been recognized at the national level. David finds great enjoyment in helping learners find and develop a passion for the automotive industry. He's excited to develop his role at Parkland and continue growing as an educator. And we're very lucky to have him to present. And this is why we have this nice building that we're in. This has all the bells and whistles. We were even able to fit the semi into the garage, and it's going to make it easier for the presentation that he's going to be doing. So without any further ado, David, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for coming over here. I know you've been on Parkland's campus before in the past, but I thought it'd be more appropriate to bring you over to, well, the auto side, where you guys are probably more accustomed than tractors. I don't know if you guys do driver's ed for tractors, but maybe you do. But anyway, hopefully you guys find this building accommodating, and I'd like to welcome all of you to our campus. So thank you, and thank you guys for asking me. I hope that I am able to provide you with some value, or at least encourage you to look a little deeper into where we're headed with this technology. As Judy said, I am the program director of Ford Asset and an instructor here, and I've got some of these little pamphlets she's handing out in my card. Our program here is unique. We're a manufacturer-sponsored program. Ford Motor Company, we work directly with Ford Motor Company, and our students, at the end of their 2 years here with us, they get an associate's degree in automotive, and they also get all of their Ford certifications that you would if you were to go to Ford training. The benefit there is that our students come to us, they have an internship, paid internship, so they come to us for 8 weeks, they go back to their dealership, they must be employed at a dealership, they must have a sponsoring dealership, and in 2 years, they're able to work, they're able to have a career with a degree, with a piece of college, which is pretty exciting. And we have about a 300-mile radius that we recruit within. So we're always looking for new, young juniors, seniors that are interested in automotive, and you guys might be a great resource for me to tap into. We're working with these young folks every day. And if you guys haven't heard of us and you want to learn more about us, and you would like me to come to your schools, or you know somebody that, if you have an auto tech program, some of you have career programs, some of you guys have auto tech programs, it just depends. We come out, we bring Ford Motor Company with us, so it's kind of cool to see them. They get to show up that we have a manager from the sponsoring dealership, and we hire kids on the spot. So they'll hire them, or they'll at least ask for an interview to come in, and we get the ball rolling. So take a look at that, and let me know if you guys have any further questions. But I was brought in to talk about electric vehicles. I thought that we got our Mach-E here now, and that's huge for us. We got a Mach-E. We've got several electric vehicles now, hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles in our fleet. This is where technology is. And this is why we're talking about it, right? We're talking that General Motors and Ford specifically, and other manufacturers are getting on board with this as well. That in a very short period of time, they want to go zero emissions. Now, they haven't defined what zero emissions is exactly. So zero emissions, does that mean tailpipe, that there's a tailpipe still in this car? Or does it mean that there's no tailpipe on this car? And you can have zero emissions. Maybe some of you heard of hydrogen fuel cells. So there's another alternative. It doesn't have to be all electric. It could be hydrogen fuel cell. So we don't know what that means yet, but they've made a commitment to make their cars light duty anyway, not trucks. So not diesel trucks, not some of their larger pickup trucks that are still doing work, the 2500s, the larger vehicles they have in their fleet. But the cars, and you've noticed maybe that you've seen a Chevy Silverado, the E Silverado, and the Ford F-150 Lightning. So those are the two probably most common trucks that you've seen or heard about anyway. And these two companies are in competition. You see one's committed to 2035 and the other one's committed to 2030. I would imagine there's some purpose there. They want to be whoever's first to the race, right? You got to appreciate that. You got to appreciate their commitment to try and find a way to be more carbon free. But this is where you guys are. This is going to be interesting to see, and I'm going to ask for feedback as we go. But you guys are going to have to teach these folks, and I mean, I will too. But this is so unknown, and it's very important that you're going to be in cars that have, maybe some of you guys have hybrids. Do you guys have hybrids in your fleet? Do any of you have all electrics in your fleet? Oh, okay, yeah, but not at school, yeah. So anybody have all electrics or hybrids in their fleet for teaching, for instruction purpose? No, not yet, but I would imagine.
ComEd up north. We're trying to get Ameren to do it around here. They're
Okay.
free cars. And
Free cars? Wow.
Well, my Fords are hybrids. They don't plug in, but they're
okay.
They generate some of their energy
Sure.
when you break them. So.
Yep. So we'll learn about those as we go. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how our old and young and new people adapt to this technology. So I thought it'd be important. I don't know how many of you guys open the hood, but I imagine you guys at your level open the hood and show kids around just to get them familiarized. So this probably isn't lost on you. It looks like an engine, right? This is a petrol engine, and it's basic. There's everything that you've learned up until this point. It applies. It's got gasoline, it's got tires, it's got brakes, and it starts and runs just like a traditional car would. But then we get a little more carried away. You can see the engine components inside, or the underhead components change a little bit. You can see that with the addition of some brightly colored cabling, that signifies something's different, right? You can see that there's something different under the hood of this car, and that is the hybrid system. This is kind of the brains of the operation sitting here. It's a power inverter, so we need this. You can see that there's 3 orange wires coming off of here. They use 3-phase alternating current. That's how these motors are driven. They're not DC like we think of any car that goes down the road. It's got a direct current 12-volt battery. Well, these also have a enormous or some smaller batteries hidden elsewhere, but the drive motors are AC generators, so they are consuming 3-phase electricity. And this box right here takes that DC energy and converts it into that 3-phase. So you guys, probably the easiest way to tie this together is if you ever have an outlet in your car, or you've tried to plug in something with 2 prongs into your car, there's an inverter or a converter inside your car that's doing that for you. So this is just an enormous scale of that. That's all it is. And it costs a lot of money. Now, we're moving into the electric era, where when you look underneath the hood of the car, well, it's not a hood anymore. It's a frunk. It's a front trunk. So they call it a frunk. It's no longer a hood. But inside, you notice there's nothing here. So obviously, we've changed, right? It's significantly changed how the underhood of a car looks. And to your young drivers, this may be strange. I don't know. Maybe people young are going to adapt that very quickly and say, oh, that's just what it is, right? So I don't know. We'll see how they relate. I still get quite the reaction from the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds when we open the hood and let them look inside. They are like, where, what? I had a reporter come in from Fox News, and they were very interested in the Mach-E, so we did a piece on the Mach-E. And the gentleman that was doing the interview and doing the recording, he wanted me to rev the engine. He kept asking me to rev the engine, make some noise. Like, this is it. There's nothing here for me to rev. I can honk the horn, but there's nothing here for me to show you or make you hear sound. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's nothing here. So we'll talk more about how these things work too. Again, a traditional drivetrain, we call them ICE, so internal combustion engines. We want to make sure that there's a distinction between engines and motors, so that you don't use those same terms as one. They are completely different. One's an internal combustion engine, that's an engine, right? And then the motor, those are the motors, those are the electric motors. So this is a cutaway of what you would generally see if you took the body off of a car. Front wheel drive unit, so you can see that the drive wheels are here, there's no drive shaft to the back. But you have an internal combustion engine and just a regular old fancy gearbox, auto transmission. Nothing special. You don't see any orange cabling. You don't see any high energy batteries. Nothing's fancy. Nothing's out of the norm here. This is what you typically have come accustomed to seeing. Now, if we add a transmission to this, generally what they're doing is they're taking what we all have seen a transmission look like. Well, me anyway, not maybe you. I gotta be careful who I'm talking to. But if you take a case off of a transmission, you'd get some gears, you'd get some hydraulics. There'd be hydraulics, clutch packs opening and closing and operating with hydraulic fluid. Well, we remove that. Instead, we use two drive motors. And one drive motor is generally acting as a generator. It's just generating electricity so that the battery can stay charged and maintained, and also for regen braking. The other one is a drive motor. That is the motor that's doing the work, the one that's carrying the load of the vehicle. You can put them in tandem, and they'll both commit to providing some acceleration, some power to the vehicle. But generally, we want to separate those out. Now, this is 117 horsepower, and if you look real close, it says 58 kilowatts. Everything we talk about in electric world is measured in kilowatts. So we do calculations. You can convert that. Any mathematicians out there? There's charts. There's ways to convert kilowatts into horsepower. Because if you say, well, it's got a 200 kilowatt motor, well, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. I want to know what horsepower it's got, right? So there's ways to convert that. And these are the motors in the back, separated out. So they're quite large. They weigh quite a bit. Some of these motors can weigh between 80 and 150 pounds. So it depends on what kind of vehicle arrangement you have, but they're quite large. And back in the day when I used to take these apart and put them back together, they're so magnetized. They're actually quite dangerous to work around because the magnet inside, when you pull them apart, when you pull the rotor out of the stator is the coil of winding, and the rotor goes down in the middle, and the rotor is what does the work. The rotor is what drives the vehicle. That rotor rotates, huh? Get it? Rotor? Yeah. And then the stator, guess what? It stays. And so it doesn't rotate. And the stator is where the magnetism comes from, or the induction comes from. And those things, when you pull them apart, you got to use tools. You use hydraulics to pull them apart. But if your finger gets in there and that thing goes back the other way, it's 150 pounds of shabam. Bad day. Yeah, not a good day. No. So you keep your hands clear if that thing goes back together quick. And then with the addition of one of these things, a massive battery pack. So this battery pack, they get much, much larger. This is something, just to put it in perspective for you, you're going to find this in the back of the car. In fact, I'm hoping to go on a show and tell mission with you if I don't go too far over my time. We have cars in the shop, so they're taken apart so you can see this stuff. You won't be able to see the transmission, but you'll be able to see the batteries. You'll be able to see what it looks like. Seats are out. It's all taken apart, but you can see this stuff. This is just underneath it's in the trunk. It's actually in a very inconvenient space, but that's the best place they could come up with it. And you'll see how large it is in real person when you go out in the shop. And then with the power inverter. So this is the converter. And if you notice, we have two motors here. Well, we have two hookups here. So you have three-phase inverted power, so AC, from DC to AC, and then actually back, right? So that's where our regen comes from. So we regen on AC, and then it converts it inside this module back to DC. So we're constantly doing this. It's an ebb and flow, back and forth, back and forth. Every time you accelerate, well, now we're converting DC to AC. And then when we let off the throttle, we go from AC back to DC. So inside this box, that's all being controlled. Something to note, on a safety, don't ever touch the orange wires. Don't cut them. Don't touch them. This is extremely dangerous. The car's got a bunch of fail safes to protect you, but I would strongly encourage you not to do that. Now, they've told safety personnel, firefighters, first responders, there are cut points where they can cut. And they know that, but you may not know that. The cut points are labeled on every car. It has to be. So you can find those cut points, but again, you shouldn't do that. You should probably leave that to somebody else. And if you are going to disable this, there are very specific ways we have to go about disabling to keep us safe and keep everyone around you safe. Only one person's died so far that I know of. Yeah.
David, why would you cut?
Well, you cut in an emergency. So just like at your house, you guys all have circuit breakers in your walls, right? So to protect your home from surge, draw. Well, these have circuit breakers as well. They're called contactors. So these contactors, if you're in an accident, the contactor can stay closed. If the contactor doesn't open, the vehicle's not safe. So on impact, the contactors are designed to open. But if they don't open, you don't know. That's the erect car is erect electric vehicle is the most dangerous car to be around. So if this car has been in an impact, and whatever that impact might be, those are the most dangerous because that contactor could stay closed. If you don't know that, which you can't see electricity, you can only feel it, right? So you don't know it's closed, and you start grabbing onto things that you're not supposed to grab onto. That's when you could get severely injured or die. And it doesn't take much to take your heart into arrhythmia, right? It's like it's a quarter of an amp. It's not much, milliamp, I'm sorry, not much. And these things are producing way more than that. We're in the hundreds, 200s, 300 amps. So it wouldn't take much to do some damage quickly. Good question.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So put it all together. Put it all together and you've got yourself a chassis, and it's a hybrid chassis. In the back of the vehicle, you've got the battery. In the front, you've got the transaxle with the drive motors inside. And you've got the internal combustion engine, the ICE. And together now you have a hybrid. All right, so there's that. Now we move into the all-electric Mach-E. And we've got lots of Mach-E electrics on the road now, and lots of hybrids on the road now. So these are very common, more and more common. But let's talk about what this chassis looks like. So this chassis is a little bit different. One, there's no ICE. The internal combustion engine is no longer. But instead, what they've done is they've made, and I think Elon Musk and Tesla's the ones that came up with this originally. Where do you store? We talk about that battery. Where do you put this thing? Because it's enormous. It's got to have a lot of space for energy. So where do you put it? Well, Elon and Tesla decided that we need to make a cassette. So it looks like a skateboard. That's probably the best way to describe it. Is it looks like a skateboard. It's a flat board with a set of wheels in the front and a set of wheels in the back. So it's a skateboard. That's what they call it, skateboard chassis. So this thing looks like this is the battery. This is part of the car. This is structural. If you remove that structure, you don't have a strong vehicle. So if it gets damaged in any way, you've now compromised the structure of the vehicle. So again, taking this out, this structure becomes weak. In fact, we have to put special tools in place to keep the body still rigid on the frame. Well, again, it's not a frame, it's a unibody, but it keeps it rigid. These are the drive motors, one in the front, one in the back. This is an all-wheel drive unit, and how you get all-wheel drive is really determined on how many motors you have. So if you have one motor, well, you have probably front-wheel drive, or you may have rear-wheel drive, but you do not have all-wheel drive. So to get all-wheel drive, you have to have a combination of two motors. Some manufacturers, Rivian does 4. Some manufacturers do 3. Some manufacturers just do 1. So it's very dependent on the manufacturer and what they're trying to get. Obviously, once you start adding motors to the system, not only are you consuming more energy, but you're also getting a lot more in return, horsepower and torque. So this vehicle can be extremely fast. And they're fun to drive. If anybody's had the experience of driving an all-electric vehicle, it's instant torque, instant horsepower. So you just get this crazy roller coaster ride of sensation where it just throws you back in your seat. There's no shifting, there's no pause, so it's just like, oh, and it just keeps, on steroids, absolutely. And
I
you,
have a question.
Yeah, go for it,
About
yeah.
the batteries, like what's the lifespan on like the hybrid compared to this Mach-E in terms of what the lifespan would be on a battery?
Well,
daily life?
no one knows yet. The old Panasonics that were in the Tahoes and you'll learn about those in a second. The little smaller batteries, those had about 100,000 mile life cycle on them. And you know your phone, right? So everybody's got a lithium ion phone on their with them, right? So that phone's got a life cycle. Every time you plug it in and discharge, every time you plug, that's a cycle. And it doesn't have infinite cycles. So, but it does have a life, and that life expires. So how you take care of this battery is very important. And it's not so much that how you take care of it, but it's the technology that's inside of it and the battery management system that manages the battery. It's the company who designed it, and that's going to create the longevity of the battery. It's how they wrote the software to protect it. So the technology, the lithium ion, I mean, that's where we're at right now. We're starting to switch to PbO4. It's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more stable. Lithium is dangerous. Lithium causes fires. You guys know that, Samsung? This is truly the same thing. There's nothing different here. The technology is the same. Your phone, this is your phone. But again, you want to talk about steroids, this is it. It's really the same. It's 100% the same. You plug it in just like you plug your phone in. You plug the car in just like you plug your phone in. It's no different. The technology is identical.
So the manufacturer comes up with that technology of how
Yep.
long they can keep them batteries.
Yep.
It's going to be the selling point for these vehicles down the line.
Yeah, Elon uses the same technology as Ford.
Yeah.
There's no difference. But what's wrapped up inside of this thing is how the cells are configured and how the battery management system manages it. That's how that's why it's different. It's proprietary.
Yeah.
So,
What's the cost of that?
oh, this battery here is $45,000.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you were to try to buy that, that's 45, 30, 35, it depends because depending on what kilowatt you get. So anywhere between $30,000 and $45,000 for the battery.
Or to replace it.
Yeah, but the good news is these batteries generally have a 150,000 mile warranty that comes with them. So the manufacturer provides that and gives you a little bit of breathing room so that when you're asking questions like that, you feel a little bit more like, okay, well, most people don't keep their car 100, 150,000. The general public generally gets rid of it, but yeah.
How do you recycle that?
It's a good question. So this goes back to Ford manufacturer, and they recondition the battery and send it back out. So in-house, they have a manufacturing plant that manages these batteries, reconditions the cells, and then sends them back out.
So I as a consumer would buy a new battery and
You as a consumer, if you got to the point in your lifespan of that vehicle and you needed a new battery, you'd go back to Ford. You'd say, okay, well, this is what's going to cost you. And they would take it out of your vehicle. They'd send it back for reconditioning, and then they would send it back reconditioned and back into your vehicle.
So it obviously wouldn't be 45,000, but
Right.
10, 15.
You know what? I have no idea what they're. So
Yeah.
we would recondition Panasonic batteries. We would do it. We can buy the cells. We can pull the cells out and put new cells in.
Mhm.
So you can buy all those individual cell plates, pull them out, put them back in. And I think the cost was $1,500.
Mm.
And now that's a much smaller battery. So I have no idea. These are too new. I have no idea what the
Yeah.
reconditioning cost would be on something like this. But once you lift that lid right there, we have the technology. We have the tools here to pull those cells and put the cells back in.
So what's the life of a reconditioned battery?
So they say that it's new again. They say that when they send it back to you, it's 90%. So instead of being 100% battery, it's 90% battery. So you degrade it down to 10, 15%, and they can send it back to you and have 90% life back.
I gotta believe it's pretty extensive.
Oh yeah,
Battery
yeah.
out. You gotta take
This-
the car apart.
Well, so because it's on the chassis, you can have this battery out in probably 5 hours. And then the battery comes down on a big table, and it's all one piece. And then this has just a cap. And then you unscrew the cap comes off, and all the cells are underneath. So we have the technology to diagnose individual cells. So we know what every cell is doing inside the battery. So if we say, okay, cell 47's got a problem, we pull out cell 47, we put new cell in, and then we cell balance. So we got the new cell in, now we have to balance it to the remaining cells, and then it's back online.
How many cells are in this one?
That's a good question.
A lot.
600 cells?
When the Priuses first came out, there was the concern about how long the batteries are going to last.
Yeah.
And
talked about, well, you might have to refinance your batteries after 8 years or whatever. But with the group of kids that we typically deal with in Drive Red, a lot of them end up in older cars.
Yeah.
And realistically, some of the parents, some of the kids might be looking at refinancing their batteries
Instead of the car.
instead of the car. So it's something else that could be coming down the road.
Those Toyota Priuses that you're talking about use that same Panasonic battery. They still use that same Panasonic battery, and I know that they're getting reconditioned right now for $1,500 to $2,000. That's not terrible. That's not terrible. So if I bought a used Prius, I know that I can put a battery, I can recondition that battery for $1,500 to $2,000. That's not terrible. That's not this cost. I mean, this is a whole other level. And that's a good point that I'm not sure what the reconditioning cost on something like this would be, but they'll have it because, again, we're starting to talk about resources, and we don't have a lot of resources left on our planet to keep making these batteries. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage that because that's going to be a real problem. That's going to be a real problem. It's a problem now. It's going to be a problem in the future. Any other questions about this? Yeah.
Not to get off on a tangent, but what does insurance cost for something like this?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So I will tell you that I have a 2021 Tesla, and I had a Volkswagen Golf R. I don't know what anybody. It's a 2-door sporty car, and insurance is based on what that car is and what kind of safety features does. How much does it cost to repair the car once it gets in an accident? If the parts are available, if they've got used parts available, they got to use new parts only. So there's a lot of variables that go into that. But my car actually the Tesla cost me about $200 less per year than my Volkswagen Golf R. So that's a cost savings to me. And one of the reasons I think, again, I'm not an insurance person, I just pay the bill. But the reason why I think that is because of the high safety factor that's wrapped around that car. I mean, it meets incredible high standards for safety. So there's probably value in that, right? To paying an insurance claim, right? There's got to be. I'm not an insurance guy, but I'm assuming that that's the case. But yeah, that's a good question. They cost less, I think. Yeah.
You probably saw it in the news this week, but down in Florida, they've got a new issue: saltwater contamination of the batteries causing fires.
Yeah. Saltwater is nasty, right? It can transfer electricity way easier than even just water can. So you put that on top of these cells inside there, and it gets in there. Now these are sealed to atmosphere, so technically no water should get in here. Technically, they're sealed to atmosphere. We're supposed to go through a process that leak checks these devices. So no air, nothing. They have to go through a vacuum check. So if they don't achieve a certain amount of vacuum, we have to smoke test them and figure out where the leak is and then reseal the leak. So technically, it's not supposed to happen. Technically. Yeah.
I agree with him. I heard the same thing. They said they were exploding.
I believe it. Once you cross terminals inside of here, you're going to have bad things. Bad things.
Extremely dangerous.
Exploding. Absolutely. So when you batteries are nasty. So I don't know how many of you guys taken a car battery, 12-volt car battery out of a car. Have you guys done that? Some of you guys done that? Great. So how many of you accidentally took the wrench and touched a piece of metal while you were taking the battery out? You done that? You sparks, arcs, shiny stuff? Yeah? Well, that's what's going on inside this battery, but only at an extreme rate. And it's trying to weld. It's going to do whatever it can. And you imagine, see the capacity. That's enormous, right? So you're thinking a little 12-volt battery in a car, right? You're going to run that thing out of capacity pretty quick. So even if you just held that wrench there and it just kept sparking and arcing, but this thing is going to just keep going until it completely depletes itself or catches itself on fire. So yeah, they're very dangerous. They're not stable. They don't like to be too hot. They don't like to be too cold. They're very fickle. So if things get out of parameter and you dump a bunch of salt water in them, I can only imagine what the end result's going to be. So yeah, stay away. I don't buy anything from Florida right now. Did you have a question, or was that?
I have so many questions.
Oh my Lord.
Keep going. Keep
Okay.
going.
All right. So we're going to talk about the differences in full hybrid, mild hybrid, and plug-in. So hybrids, we call them FEVs. These are just a full hybrid electric vehicle. You think that, wow, that'd be a lot. No, it's very little. It's a very basic car. It's your car, in fact. There's not a whole lot here. It has a small electric motor inside of it that can propel the vehicle up to 25 miles per hour before the ICE or internal combustion engine takes over. So that is a very small motor, nothing too exciting, but it does assist. It does have some value. It has a very small battery pack, generally in the trunk. And again, we try to think of like the Toyota Prius. That's probably the most common car you know about that has this style. The Chevy Tahoe hybrid, we also use this same style or have in the past. It only produces about 200 to 300 volts, which sounds like a lot. However, the battery is small. It's smaller than this table. It's probably about shoulder width wide and probably about that tall. It's not a very big battery. So you got to think of this in terms of capacity. Even though it's got the voltage, it doesn't have the capacity. So it can't give the range. It can't give the power. So it's a very, even though that sounds impressive, it's not. I mean, that's not the impressive part. It uses an internal combustion engine or a combination of both the ICE and the electric motor to get that full benefit of hybrid power. So this was new technology, 2008, 2005, somewhere in there, and it was huge. It really did. For the Tahoe, it made it from a 18 mile per gallon interstate car to a 21 on the interstate, and instead of I think a 13 or 14 in city, it made it a 21 in city. So that was change, right? So people were really pretty excited about that, and Prius was huge, right? That was, everybody wanted a Prius when those things came out because of their fuel economy. They're touting 100 miles per gallon. I mean, that's at one point, so that's pretty cool. Now we go into a mild hybrid. A mild hybrid is electric only range. It's not capable of electric only propulsion. It's just e-assist, another small motor. It has a 48 volt battery, very small, very small. This thing is, again, it's probably about this long and probably about that tall. It's very compact.
Back to the full hybrid, if the battery goes out and you still have does the car still run?
Nope, it's a paperweight. So when the battery fails, it'll set a code depending on the type of failure. If it fails and the car thinks it's unsafe to continue to provide energy from either the battery or the electric motor, it says no. And when it says no, it'll gently ask you to pull over to the side of the road, and it's a paperweight. So now you got to get it towed and figure out what's going on. So those are pretty severe codes. Now, if it's general gasoline or internal combustion engine code, the car will still run. But they take electricity very seriously. So the minute that something is running hotter, it's consuming more than it's supposed to, those are red flags, and then shuts the vehicle off. Gently. It's never allowed to just stop. You can't just stop on the interstate and be a paperweight. It's going to derate the vehicle, and you're going to be forced to think, I need to pull over, and now you're going to get out of harm's way. But after you shut the car off, it's done. There's no restarting it.
Are there any that can do that?
To restart?
No, I mean,
have
it makes
this.
sense to me. You have two energy sources. Like, why do they have to? Why can't they work independently of each other? Like, seems like it would be
Shut that system down.
Yeah, shut the electrical system down and just go off gas. It seems like it would.
The issue is they're not, maybe they're smart enough, maybe they're not smart enough, but the issue is it doesn't know what's going on totally inside that battery. It's only as good as the sensors that are inside of it. So if the sensors start seeing things funky, but they're not quite sure, it's just a fail-safe. Get the person out of the car. Yeah, get the person out of the car, because we don't know. Could be a thermal event. Well, I don't know. So the computer's not smart enough yet. So, I mean, it is and it isn't. They're very smart. I shouldn't say that. They're very intelligent people. Shouldn't knock them. They're very smart. Smarter than me, I can guarantee you. But again, the mild hybrid. This is maybe you guys own one, maybe you don't, maybe you've seen it. But you come to the stop sign and shuts the car off. There's auto stop feature. So the auto stop feature is number one. Like, that's the most noticeable. And you still get to listen to your radio. You still get to have. You don't get to have your AC anymore, but the transmission's still engaged with the pump, and the electric system is still just providing some accessories to work, but you're saving fuel because the engine shut off. So that's that stop-start feature. The plug-in hybrid. lots of cars on the road right now in a plug-in variety. The Ford Fusion hybrid and the Toyota, those are just two, but we have the Volt, we have lots of, the Volkswagen's got some. I mean, I think every manufacturer at this point has some type of plug-in hybrid. BMW, you just name them. They've got some type of plug-in option. And this is
Chrysler
different.
Pacifica.
Go ahead.
We just got a Chrysler Pacifica last spring.
Plug-in.
Yep.
Yeah, and you are charging a 300 to 400 volt battery hiding somewhere in that vehicle. It's large. This is a large battery, and it's going to be hiding somewhere, hopefully, where you can still put luggage in the back. Ford screwed that up. You can't put luggage in the trunk, so it's kind of a waste of space. But this battery is generally 300, 400 volts, and it has an electric drive motor or two in the transmission. And these electric drive motors are more than capable of propelling this vehicle on electric only for 20 to 40 miles. Again, the difference here than a full electric vehicle is capacity. The battery is still too small. So if you change the whole thing out and put a bigger battery in, would be more than capable of propelling that car. But it's capacity. That's what it comes down to. You must recharge this battery to keep it going. If you don't recharge, you're okay. No worries. This is that range anxiety we can get rid of real easily. You can still go to the gas station, put gas in your car, and it's going to go. You'll never have to worry about it running out of charge and then leaving you stranded. You can just keep going. It'll just keep running on internal combustion. And at times, you see over here, so it's got this little battery that tells you how much charge you have left and combination of fuel that you have left. And we have a Fusion that we take on recruiting trips, and it gets 500 miles. So we don't have to worry about it. It's pretty nice on a full charge. And it'll even sort of recharge itself. It does an okay job of regen braking. I always challenge myself to see if I can get this thing as low as it'll go and try to charge it back up on the trip. It's fun. It gives you something to do when you're driving to Memphis, Tennessee to visit someone. So just play around with that. And there's a coach also that helps, are you accelerating too quickly? Are you decelerating? Decelerating is a big thing too. Just as much as you accelerate, you got to be careful how you decelerate because that's where you capture that energy back. So that's always a fun game. Now here we go. Lucid's a brand new company coming out, and they're excited about their vehicles. Rivian, and those are just to name a few. Again, there's a lot of players in this market, but they're not normal players. They're bigger. They're different. Rivian's not General Motors. Rivian's not Ford. They're new. So these are new players. Tesla, we've never heard of them, right? I mean, they're still. I don't know who else is coming out with electric cars. It'll be interesting to see. They're taking the market over, and that's why General Motors and Ford and those big three that you always hear about got to find a way to compete. The Mach-E, Chevy Bolt, Nissan Leaf, Tesla, Lucid, Rivian, and that's just to name a few. You get an electric range of anywhere between 150 and 500 miles. Again, this range is all dependent on the size of the battery. So the smaller kilowatt batteries, not as much range. The larger kilowatt batteries, more range. And generally, more range, you've got more power, you've got more fun. So if you're going to buy one, make sure you get the big battery and the big motors and have fun.
I have a question.
Yes.
Batteries don't only last so long, right?
They have a life. Yep.
Well, I meant as far as travel wise.
Oh yeah, no, you'll be out. Yep. So you got to be careful, right? This is where that range anxiety sets in. So as you're creeping up on that 500 mile mark and you still haven't figured out where to plug it in, you're going to be in trouble.
So what's going to happen if we have electric cars and people want to travel from Chicago to Florida in a day?
So I'm going to get to that. There's an entire infrastructure to support you, so you don't feel like that.
Okay.
I promise. They're doing a good job. So 1 to 4 electric drive motors. We already kind of talked about that. We call them BEVs. We call them, so in our world, we call them battery electric vehicles. These have high voltage batteries, anywhere between 460, 600 volts or more. So again, this isn't what kills you. It's the amps that's inside of this thing that wipes you out. You've all been tickled by light sockets. You've all been tickled. I can give you a spark plug and hold in your hand, and it just tickles. It's 40,000 volts. So you don't die. You don't die. So the volts aren't what's the problem. It's the amps inside that thing that's going to wreck your world. BEVs must be regularly charged. No charge means no go. So there's no gas backup. You got to be thinking ahead when you're driving one. Range is very much dependent on weather and temperature. So this is batteries, I told you how they like to operate. They don't like to be too cold. They don't like to be too hot. In fact, these batteries use chillers to keep them cool. So they use air conditioning systems, so chillers. There's chiller plates on the battery to keep them cold. And then they use, if anybody's been in a hot tub, there's an electric element that warms that water. That there's an electric element on this vehicle that warms your occupant compartment as well as maintains proper battery temperature. So when it's cold outside, it keeps it warm. And between those two things, we can get it real close to being happy, but there are times when it's not happy. And there's environments in our world that these cars are just not going to work in. You know, you're talking about Antarctica, that probably wouldn't be a good spot for this. So there's Canada, though. That's much closer to us. There's Alaska. That's much closer to us. These environments are still harsh in the winter and could be a factor in them being able to own one of these vehicles reliably. Batteries are like people, again, not too hot, not too cold. Much like petroleum-powered vehicles, added load. So you can tow with these vehicles. You can pull. Some of them pull 14,000 pounds. But you can imagine that your range is going to go down, and you have to account for that. So if you're going to pull a trailer, you need to be aware that you're losing, just like fuel economy. You're going to pull a big trailer, you're going to lose fuel economy. Well, you just got to think about this differently. Make sure you're finding a place to charge. But you can do it. You can do it. Anywhere between 10 and 15,000 pounds for some of these vehicles, so they can tow. And again, they do have coaching systems, just like the hybrids. They have coaching systems built in to help you along, and again, promote good driving habits. But what if we need to charge along the way, right? So this is where we try to help reduce the range anxiety. There's several different types of charging that we're aware of, level 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to talk about those 3 levels of charging. Level 1, this is just something where you can plug into your house. You may recognize that plug. It's just any one of these outlets. You can plug it into any one of these outlets. And it really is just a glorified extension cord. Plug it in, it'll charge your car. However, it is a very slow, again, we talk about kilowatts. So when you just think this, if you see a lot of kilowatts, think lots of power. If you see little kilowatts, not so fast, not so much power. So this is not fast. This is going to charge your car anywhere between, depending on the capacity of the battery, because that matters, how big this battery is, it's going to charge your battery anywhere between 8 and 24, 32 hours, depending on the capacity of the battery. So not a great solution if you're owning this vehicle and trying to drive it every day. If you want, you can jump up to level 2, and this significantly reduces the amount of time it takes to charge. But if you notice, that outlet doesn't look like the last one. So now you have to have a dedicated 240 volt circuit put in your house. Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly. And you have to, ideally you'd want this installed by a professional, unless you guys think you're professionals, you can do it yourself. You just put this in your house. Now this is a 240 volt up to 40 amp outlet, and this provides about 6 to 8 kilowatts. So still not huge, but it'll cut the time in half. So if it's an 8-hour charge, generally it's a 4-hour charge. So now you can do it overnight, no problem, get a full charge. And if it's a much larger capacity vehicle, you can get that into a much more reasonable time frame, 12 hours instead of 32 hours. I mean, so there's a difference here, 24 hours. So it cuts it about in half. And this is what we're after right here. It equates to about 20 to 60 miles. So you're doing that conversion, trying to understand the kilowatts to mileage. So when you see 6 to 8 kilowatts, you're thinking about 20 to 60 miles per hour. Now, a lot of you guys have seen the Tesla supercharger in mall parking lots, Meijer parking lots, and this is a level 3 charger. This is a DC fast charger. One of the major reasons why we're able to put electric cars on the road and make it an efficient network is because of this style of charging. Tesla's not the only manufacturer that runs level 3 chargers. I'll show you a couple other manufacturers too, but the way that this works, and you can't get this at home, by the way. This is not something you can buy at home. This is only commercial. So it operates on 480 volts, and it'll charge your car depending on the charger that you go to. The network does matter. So if you're on a slow network, you're only going to get 48, but look at the number there. That's incredible, right? You saw 6 to 8 for 240, you've jumped to 300. So you can do 400 miles in 1 hour. That's incredible. So that's why we're able to keep these cars going down and not being a major inconvenience in a person's daily life for being able to drive long distances.
What are the logistics involved with that? Like 6 people want to use the same charger, how's that happen?
There's actually
How
people
much
pay
does
for
it
that.
cost to charge?
Depends on what you have to test at the beginning.
Yep. So to answer your question, these chargers are in banks of 8 generally, or banks of 12, and there's a massive. So how they work? Let's see. How they work is back behind it. You may notice a big box. A big box. They try to hide it with bushes and stuff. It's a bank of batteries. A bank of batteries that you know about. 12-volt batteries. Okay. So there's a bank of batteries back there, and they all tie together, and they're all DC batteries. So when you get these cars all in a row, let's say all 8 show up at once, you're down to this. You're down to this crazy number or less. And they tell you, if you're a car owner, if you're an electric car owner, there's etiquette. There's etiquette. You don't park next to somebody because they are ran in. So this one and this one are tied together, but the middle one is not. So every other is tied to the same bank of batteries that's behind that wall. So you don't be that guy and park next to it because you're going to kill it. You're going to split it now. So if it's 300, each of you are getting 150. So that's where people get kind of antsy and angry.
So if I'm a Ford hybrid person, can I plug into one of those? I don't know the logistical because it's probably all prior to
Yeah. So I'm going to show you that in a second too. I'm going to show you that in a second. You got to think about that. This lady right here in the back.
And, question two, so are they all fast charging, not all?
Not all.
Just certain?
So when you see a level 1 DC fast charger, I'm going to show you how you recognize that in a second. But DC fast chargers again are Tesla's proprietary.
Of course.
Yeah. But there are other manufacturers out there that are providing the same DC fast charging technology. But you're exactly right. If you pull in, you're going to bring down that system. So
And the follow-up is, how do you pay for that?
It's an app on your phone, and the car knows when you pull backed in and you've connected. It knows exactly what charger you plugged into, and your credit card is tied to your car. So now it's going to charge.
There's no attendant to go.
No. Now some of them do. This one doesn't, but some of them do have a spot for a credit card. Electrify America, their 240-volt chargers do that. You have to put a credit card in. Most of them, it's an app. It's an app that when you pull up, it recognizes the car. It recognizes that you're at one of their chargers, and then it charges your credit card.
At some point, there's like stations have to start popping up, right?
Oh, they're everywhere.
Gas stations.
They're everywhere. I'll show you this in a second. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So
I have a question beside that then. When you're plugged in, then is your car susceptible to be taken then at that point, or?
no, if you were to get out of your car and leave, it's locked. And nobody can unplug your charger. Nobody can steal your charger while you're charging. It's locked to your car.
Okay.
So, if you're that person,
Keep it on too long.
yeah, if you put it on, if you decide to go into the mall and you shop, this is how they get you too. They're called idle fees. They want that charger to be flipped. So if you plug your car in and then you go in the store, it'll actually tell your phone. It'll send you a message on your phone, alert, your car's done charging, or will be in 15 minutes. Yada yada yada. You need to go back, otherwise you're going to be charged 40 cents a minute for idle fees or some kind of charge. They're going to tie to that.
Just real quickly, at a level 3 charger and you're down low, how long does it take to completely charge if you need to go another 400 miles?
Well, so if you have a 400-mile car, let's say you got let's do this because I know this because I know this. This is good math. So to get my car from 20% to 100 so I can go again, probably 15 minutes. So if you find a DC fast charger that's putting out 250 to 300 kilowatts, it's by the time I go inside, Meijer, let's just say it's Meijer, go inside and get something, like you would a convenience store and come back, I'm ready to rock. Now, if I just needed a quick 100 or a quick 50, you're talking minutes. You're talking 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, it's not very long.
But Dave, you're saying if there are cars parked next to you, it takes a little longer. So like the cases of the world, there's one out on University Avenue.
Yep.
And it gets a lot of highway traffic. And I've gone in there many times and every slot's filled with a car.
So that's going to bring down that charging bank.
So that.
And it could be, it depends on how the charging bank was built. Because some of them, again, the network is different. The network, some of them only operate at 48. So if you think about a 48, if that's your bank, well, that's going to be bad. But if you're operating at 300 and it all draws down to 2 or 250 or whatever it might be, that's still fast. You're still going to get the job done. You're still going to knock it out of the ballpark. But when you're down here, you try to avoid. So if you're routing you try to avoid chargers like this. So you try to find chargers like that.
The newer they are, probably the higher they are, right?
And the larger the
Like
the battery bank behind it.
Yeah.
Remember, somebody had to pay to put this charger in. So the more batteries, the more expense, right? So it depends on what there is.
In the beginning, Teslas also, they'll give you free charging.
They don't anymore.
Well, if you were one of the original 2015 owners, you may have that option, but not now. They're giving it to you.
And where I'm at in Gilman, we actually have one of those at BP there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll see when we drive by, do behind the wheel right for the B234 lined up, and like you said, every other.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people go in there and then they just go in and have lunch.
Yeah.
Just go in and have breakfast, lunch, charging, and go in and eat lunch.
And we're going to talk about that. You make an excellent point. They're at the BP stations. They're at the Casey stations. They're at the Phillips 66 stations. These people wised up and said, wait a second, I'm losing business. If people aren't filling up their car at my gas station, because they don't make money on the gas. They make money on selling candy bars and the Polar Pops. So that's where they make the money. They need the people to come in. So they got to put something. This is brilliant, right? Put a fast charger in my parking lot, get people to come in. I think it's brilliant. Any other questions before I move on? I'm going to show you the types of charging. So this is how you recognize what you're after. So this is your general type 1 connector that you can just plug into the wall outlet. You can get 240 out of this style. You can get 120 out of this style. So this is, again, what would go here or at any 120 or 240 volts charging station, whether it be public or private. This is what you're looking for. This is these SAE numbers, Society of Automotive Engineers. This is a standard. So if you see this J number, that's a standard. Tesla thought they'd be funny and make their own. This is not universal. You notice they're very different. There's no J number either. So this is something that's proprietary and only Tesla has. And Tesla was also smart enough to come up with a J adapter. So Tesla owners can charge anywhere else, any other electric vehicle charges. However, electric vehicles, any other vehicle other than Tesla cannot charge on their chargers. Well, that's crap. But they're talking with Tesla about creating ways to incorporate, be more inclusive. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
And then more money, so I can't believe they don't.
Oh, and it's all about capital, right? Yeah.
I mean, they'll make more money off of what cars can charge for.
And the other one that you guys are going to see, this is new, but this is most all electric vehicles that you're going to buy today come with this style of charger, a CCS Combo 1. And the unique thing about this, it incorporates the Type 1, which is here, and it incorporates the 2 prongs that you see. You don't see 2 prongs in these. See, but you see 2 prongs here, you see 2 prongs here, and 2 prongs here. This is the DC fast charging. This is how you know that your car is capable of DC fast charging. If you see these 2 prongs in the connector, not these, because this is operating just on 240 volts or 120, not the 300 volt systems or 400 volt systems, but the CCS Combo 1. Most electric cars have this now. So just to recap, all the different things you see here, 120, 240, 480, again, what they're capable of, residential or public, and then just commercial, just residential generally. Although it's funny, I was traveling, I was up in Wisconsin, a quick trip. I pull in, and it said electric vehicle. You know, you got the little signs that say electric vehicle only, right? So I pull in, I'm like, it literally was an outlet. It literally was an outlet on a pole. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But maybe they're, obviously maybe the community's got something that says if you put an electric vehicle, do some money, I don't know.
What does a fill up with an electric vehicle cost?
So here you go. This is that map that I wanted to show you so that you didn't have that range anxiety. This is how many chargers there are across the United States by Electrify America and Tesla. Tesla's got more. Electrify America is still working on it. But you can drive coast to coast. In fact, they've got a Tesla on the road right now driving back and forth across America every day on 80. And they're testing out the infrastructure, and they're testing out how long that battery, whoever asked that question, how long it's going to live. It hasn't died yet. But this infrastructure is what you're looking for. And as you drive your vehicle, They are going to charge you. They are going to charge you money based on the kilowatt hour that you use. Now, I got this Facebook. You know, you read Facebook, you just want to reach to the screen sometimes. But this person on Facebook says it's unbelievable. Everybody wants you to think that, you know, it doesn't cost anything to charge. He says it's going to cost like 60 to 80 or $150. It was some ridiculous amount of money to charge a Tesla because it says 28 cents per minute. Well, if you got to do 8 hours, because he was basing it on 8 hours, well, what's 28 cents times 8 hours? Well, that's a lot. That's way more than a fuel up at the gas station, isn't it? But how fast did this take you? If it's a 300, if it's a 180 or 300 kilowatt, how long did it take you to do a full charge? 30 minutes, maybe. Yeah. So if you did 60 minutes times 0.28, I mean, we're not talking a lot of money here. So to debunk that, it doesn't take you hours to charge. It takes you about an hour or less, depending on what you need and how big your battery is. So there you go. That is, in my opinion, it costs me anywhere between $8 and $14 to fill up. That's way less than what I can fill up my wife's Honda Pilot for. So that's to me, that's a win. Now, of course, I'm sure that's going to change as the world changes and we go all electric. They'll capitalize on that and it'll go up. But whatever. For now, it's very reasonably priced. What if you get an emergency? Well, you run out of charge, and people do this all the time. And you are a paperweight at this point. Again, you're going to be a lot of information given to you before this moment arises in the driving process. You might want to take all those cues. But some people fight through it. Some people fight through it and they keep going, and then they wind up on the side of the road. They have mobile electric vehicle charging. Tesla will come out, they'll charge your car. They carry a generator and a way to charge your vehicle, give you enough charge to get to an actual charging station. If you're in an rural community, it may be more difficult for you to get one of these vehicles to your location. And it's a flatbed tow. So whatever a flatbed tow truck costs you to get your car on the flatbed, you can't pull by the axles. So you got to find a flatbed to come get you and get you to a charging station somewhere.
So you think totally, or we're gonna be electric totally, or you think we'll be hybrid?
Man, I don't know. That's a good question. I like electric. That's a good question. I don't know if that's the answer though.
I mean, I think electric has an advantage, but for some of us that do a lot of traveling, I'm afraid that.
I don't think that's not a fear for me. I think
to me that's a fear.
I think you could do it. You could do it, and you would feel comfortable doing it. I can say that with 100% confidence.
I mean, every other weekend I'm driving one way 325 miles.
It's okay. You can do that, and I can say that with confidence.
Toyota just announced this week, though, that they're not going all electric. They're going to go combination of something.
Hydrogen?
Well,
I would be willing to bet it's hydrogen.
yeah, possibly.
So when I talked about zero emissions, I said, is it going to be a tailpipe or is it going to be a battery or no tailpipe? Well, this is what I'm talking about. There's other ways to make that car go down the road other than electricity. It's just it's the hot topic right now. It's what we're talking about. It's what everybody's getting excited about.
And there's smokestacks involved too.
Well, there's lots of things. There's lots of controversy surrounding this, but I also don't think that petrol or petroleum-based is the answer anymore. I think we can get away from that. I think there's better fuels. But is it electric? I don't know. It is. I like it right now, but I don't know if that's a reality. I don't know if it could be a long-term reality. So I'm not sold on that. So if you want to debate that, we can, but I'm not sold. I'm not sold that this is the answer. But you are going to have to maintain these vehicles, whether it be a hybrid or electric. But let's talk about what's involved with these vehicles. Guess what? If it's a hybrid, it still has that internal combustion engine. You do everything. You do everything that you normally would do to your vehicle that you would have with just a gas-powered engine. So rotates, oil changes, air filters, coolant flushes, all that stuff. Still same. Do the schedule, do the maintenance schedule. Everything remains the same. The electric drive motors and the transmission do not require any special attention. Just do the regular maintenance that you would for your transmission fluid, and your drive motors will be fine. There's nothing that really goes wrong with these things, which is the great news. Now, for the BEVs, this is where the industry is going to be, in my industry, my world, the automotive world, where we rely heavily on maintenance. We rely heavily on upselling filters, wipers, brake pads, exhaust systems, flushes, injector flushes, coolant flushes. None of this is here. None of this is here. This car doesn't have any regular maintenance other than rotating your tires. That's about it. The braking system, I have no idea when the brake pads are going to have to be replaced because you're not using them. My car doesn't use brake pads. The Mach-E doesn't use brake pads. They're there. They're on the vehicle for safety, but they don't close. They don't open and close. I mean, this will blow your mind. There's no mechanical connection between you and your brakes anymore. Yeah. So it's a computer. The computer's doing it for you. It's all simulated. You guys have the brake pedal still in the car. It's there, but it's fake. There's an active brake booster behind it that's running that. And it's you pushing on the brake pedal, telling the computer how much pressure you're applying and at what rate you're applying it. And then it reacts and applies the hydraulics if it needs to.
So technically, I can just let my foot up the accelerator.
And then the regen takes over.
And it's not, if you can time it out to know how much time you need it,
Mhm.
you can do it without even pushing the brake.
Yeah, we have one pedal driving now. So you don't. One pedal driving means that you no longer touch the brake pedal if you choose that option. You don't have to touch the brake pedal. You just use the accelerator and throttle it however you'd like to. Stop, go, slow down, speed up, whatever. But there's no interaction. It's fake. It's all simulated. It's kind of funny. Everybody's like, there's nothing there. Now it still has a hydraulic brake master cylinder and hydraulic lines and calipers, just like a traditional car would, because that's the backup. That's the fail-safe, right? So it still has all that stuff. We just don't apply it the same way that we have in the past.
So basically then as teaching goes, you won't have to worry about them having 2 feet using 2 pedals.
Well, so that, those are, I don't know, you guys gotta cut me off. No.
Well, maybe not.
That's good. Yeah. So,
we'll let you know.
but yeah, that's where I'm always interested in knowing how you guys are gonna react to this, because, you cover the brake pedal, right? I'm sure that's something you tell your students. Cover the brake, or what do you, cover the throttle? I don't know what you're gonna say. I don't know. But if you ever get yourself in a situation where that car is a 1-pedal car, I don't know what you say. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be different. This is where we're headed, though. And regardless of the fuel that's powering the vehicle, right now, whenever you guys think of electric vehicles, you think of autonomy, you think of it driving itself, you think of the technology that's in these cars. However, that technology doesn't just have to be associated with electric vehicles. It's going to be associated with any fuel, whatever that fuel might be, whether it's battery fuel, hydrogen fuel, or still petrol. I don't know. But this is where we're headed. And inside the cockpits of these cars is a massive video game. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been in a new cockpit of a car, but there's a lot of information coming at you. And what you can do while driving your car, and what it's hitting you with while you're driving a car. I mean, they say don't be a distracted driver. Well, geez, I'm looking 100 different spots. And then Tesla did a good job. They put it right here off to the side. But on that one screen, it is loaded with data, and you're gonna have to, your kids, your young people you're training are gonna have to get used to that, and to not distract it.
Question, yesterday I was walking through a parking lot, about 8:30 at night. I did not hear the car start because it was electric. Thank goodness I was in the middle of the lane, because this guy just started backing up. And I couldn't hear it, and his windows were really dark, and I'm like, couldn't he even see me? Was there anything in the car telling them there was a pedestrian behind him?
Yeah, well, that's a law. There's 2 laws there. One law is that every electric vehicle must produce a noise. So there has to create a backup sound, so it has to make some noise backing up. Mine sounds like a spaceship's taking off. Or a beep beep. Some do beep beep. Some you can change it, but you can't turn it off. There's no way to turn that off. So that's legal. That's a DOT requirement. The other requirement is anymore you got to have a camera on the back of your car. So I don't know when this car was built, but it has to have a camera. It can either be a camera, it has to be some detection device that recognizes what's behind the vehicle, whether it be sonar or a camera. It's got to know the difference between the two.
People who are blind trying to walk. And there's absolutely no sound. Same thing when it's going forward, there's no sound. So somebody who is visually impaired is.
No, something's not right with the vehicle you're talking about. There's a noise that's produced while moving forward, and there's a noise produced while it's moving backwards. It's there. I would argue that there's something wrong with the vehicle that you were around, and that's dangerous.
It's a different noise, it's not much.
It's not much of a noise. It's a hum. Maybe you have to listen for it. I don't know, but you can definitely hear it. And as you speed up, the noise increases or decreases. Fun fact: over 80 miles an hour, the noise goes away. I'm thinking, much over 80. What are we listening for anyway? What are we listening for? But over 80, the noise goes away. So once you hit 80, you don't have to have that noise goes away. They also have pedestrian horns. So there's a button on the stock that you push, and it beeps at the pedestrians in case, because again, they're quiet. And they may not know, especially if you're hearing impaired, visually impaired, you may have to hear it. Either way, right? But this is where we're going. And by far, probably the safest world we've lived in as far as inside of a car, in my opinion. So we've got all these different driver assist systems. Most cars now have some type of driver assist built into them. Autopilot is Tesla. These all have, by the way, manufacturer-specific names. So Tesla calls it autopilot, which is misleading. It's not truly autopilot. It's not truly self-driving. So we'll get into that in a second. General Motors calls it Super Cruise. Ford calls it Copilot 360, and Rivian calls it Driver Plus. Other manufacturers may call it something different, but these are the ones that I can relate to. But each of these manufacturers offers some kind of the following: lane keep assist. If you come out of your lane, it'll correct. It'll take the steering wheel, if your hands are on or not, and it'll correct and put you back in your lane. Adaptive cruise control gaps your car, it speed up, slow down. These might be features you're aware of or felt. Self-driving. Now this is a new level, but the car will drive itself to some extent. We got to talk about that because it can be kind of, misleading, controversial. Evasive steering assist. So deer runs out in front of your car. It will take over and it will steer away and brake at the same time. And then parking assist. You can parallel park. That's fun, right? You guys have them push the button on the car to parallel park the car for you? That's hilarious. So the kids don't have to learn, right? Just push the button and then it pulls into the stall. You even pull you in the stall and back you out of the stall. You don't have to do any of that, and it'll put it right between the lines.
So the evasive steering assist, is that up to a certain speed or is that
any speed? Any speed, and then braking. So it's a brake and assist. So let's take a look at how these systems work. ADAS works by using cameras located outside and inside the car. This is my voiceover that I did for somebody else. Radar. I'm not sure how to turn that off. Let me go back. Is it doing it? Maybe it stopped. Here, let me delete this real quick because that's not supposed to be on there. Sorry. Okay, so they use cameras, GPS, sonar, radar, LiDAR, and cellular data to make this work. So all these systems are operating inside this vehicle, and it literally can see everything around it. LiDAR takes a laser, and it spits a laser beam out, and it swings 360 degrees, and it maps. So it just maps their surrounding, and then tells the car where it is in real time. Sonar, if you listen real closely, you guys all see the little bumps in the bumpers or in the back bumpers. You see the little bumps, the little round things. Those are all sonar. If you listen real quickly, they're emitting sound. And that's to detect things around them. That's lane. So you see the little blinker on the mirrors go on. Somebody's next to you. That's what that's for. So it's sensing how close that car is based on sonar. And then the light comes on and tells you somebody's next to you. So blind spot awareness. Radar, cruise control, how fast you're going, and adaption. GPS, that's just knowing where it is in real time. And then the cameras to see some combination of all of these or some combination of just one of these is how these cars function. Tesla only does it by cameras. Tesla does not use it doesn't use LiDAR. It does sonar and radar, but it does not use LiDAR. LiDAR is clunky. Have any of you guys seen the Google car, the Google self-driving car? Google it. The self-driving car has got these stupid antennas on top, and they got these LiDAR antenna out of it. It just looks nuts. And that would have to be with your car. Does anybody want to drive that? Does anybody want to own that? But that's because it needs to see. Those cameras have to go around and spit that laser image out wherever it goes. These are the levels that the government has put into place to help you guys realize, to help us realize what type of car you're driving. So, and what kind of assist. This is specifically related to autonomy. So the levels of autonomy, no assist, no driver assist, means the features of no safety features. This is pretty basic, right? Level 1, single assist, basic adaptive cruise control. Level 2, advanced driver assist systems, so speed, steering, braking are all controlled. You got to remember, this is how we have to define it. Are you controlling it, or is the vehicle controlling it? So if there's no intervention by the human, it's autonomous. And this is what they're talking about. So the speed, steering, and braking, the vehicle is doing it. The vehicle is making decisions and doing it. Level 3, takes control of critical safety features, no input from the driver needed in an emergency. Jesus, take the wheel. Good luck. Yeah.
Where are we at in the industry? Mostly like 1 and 2?
Right here.
Right there too.
Yep. Now, commercially, we're higher, but only in certain markets and commercially. So I'll talk to you about that in a second. Is it available? Oh yeah. We're literally 1 click away from just saying go.
Oh geez.
But there's so much in the way of that.
Just wanted to say for planning purposes, we've got 10 o'clock Zoom with someone. And
Yep.
if it's all right with you,
I can be done.
No,
No.
we want to keep this
We're
going.
gonna do
but
the car
10,
and the semi going to see them at the same time.
Okay.
So,
You tell me what you want.
So
no, you got to 10.
you're
I got
good.
till 10.
And then if it's
You
all
got
right with
6
you, after Ray talks about semis, we'll all go out there.
I think I'm almost done anyway. Let's see here. Yep, I'm almost done. I can buzz through this. If you guys got questions, just find me. I'm
You got
sorry.
6
I can talk forever.
Yeah, we got to break it.
Okay, this is so interesting, we let you
I'm
talk.
sorry.
We'd
I'm
like to talk
sorry.
forever. Excellent.
But anyway, this is much. This is the fun stuff right here. High automation and full automation. No driver necessary. Las Vegas does this. Seattle does this. California, some of their cities do it. The car comes to you. Lyft. Lyft is a major investor in this software. Nobody's in the car. Shows up. The law right now states that you got to have a driver in the seat when there's a passenger in the vehicle. So, but it drives. It does. You don't drive. It drives you. So they're doing that on a commercial level right now. So government regulations are what are at play. Ethics at play. Infrastructure development. All of this is at play. Did the car kill you, or did the driver kill you? We don't know. And does the car kill the cat, or does the car kill the driver? That's what we're trying to show you here. That, well, wait a second. If my car has to make a decision, because the car has to make the decision now. Does it kill the pedestrian, or does it swerve and kill you? Who does it kill? So are we leaving that in the hands of the car, right? And this is all AI. This is going to be software that's developed to make those decisions, but we're talking about ethics, right? We're talking about, am I drunk? Is that legal? Can I be drunk now and be in my car? Can I do that? Well, the car's driving for me. I should be able to be drunk. I don't know, right? That seems asinine to me, but I don't know where this is headed. So there's a lot of obviously debate and conversation about this. This, y'all have seen them, these cell phone towers. Very important that you guys wrap your heads around this. Most of our young people run about 4 gigabytes a day on their phone. These cars are going to operate on 4,000 gigabytes a day. These cars require 5G network infrastructure. That's why you see it a lot alongside roads. They're building that up. They're putting it in the roadways. They're putting it all around so that these cars can communicate. So these cars need this data upload and download for real-time information to know exactly where they are in time and space. So all these functions require upload and download as it's going down the road. And it's communicating with other cars. It's communicating with itself, road conditions.
So does that make this definitely more practical in some of your regions of the United States versus others?
Oh, I would
Because
imagine.
I saw your map, your YouTube maps earlier. It looked like basically Montana, North Dakota, almost all of South Dakota didn't hardly have anything in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of, northern Idaho basically, when you get north of like I-90, there wasn't a whole lot going on there.
So I think they're obviously developing this infrastructure where it's going to be most utilized at this time, but as they expand,
it might become more.
I think there's a lot of political at play too. Some folks don't want this in their state. Some folks don't want, and that's okay. Whatever. I'm not here to debate that. That's their state, not mine.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of politics. I think that says we don't want these chargers, we don't want to change, whatever. But it's unbelievable. 4,000 gigabytes, so 4 terabyte. I can't even wrap my head around that. So, and it's doing it like that. I mean, it's processing. So here we go. This is it. I'm gonna be able to read a book, and I'm gonna be able to let the car go, and it's gonna be giving me. This is already here, ladies and gentlemen. This is all here. All of this is here, and I literally get distracted and can play on my phone, on my car. So. I shouldn't admit that to a bunch of driver's ed teachers or a State Farm person, but that's where I can be. I can be on my phone. I can in a car that I feel that secure that it's taking, and that's just level 2. So where we get to level 5, it's unbelievable. I couldn't imagine. So that's me. Sorry, I took too long, but it's 10 o'clock.
No.